It had the looks of a space-age dream, the power to dominate drag strips, and the aerodynamics to crush NASCAR. Yet, after just 2 years, Ford pulled the plug and erased it from the lineup. This is the unbelievable story of the Starliner, the muscle car that was too good to last. The late 1950s were obsessed with space. Rockets, astronauts, satellites. If it didn't look like it belonged on the moon, people weren't interested, and Ford knew exactly how to cash in. Their full-size lineup didn't just have cars, it had Galaxies, Skyliners, and Sunliners. The names alone made you feel like you were driving straight into the future. Forget buying a sedan. Ford was basically selling you a spaceship for the price of a family car. And then came 1960. The Galaxy got a redesign that looked like it had been beamed down from another planet. Gone were the bulky, chrome-heavy 1959 shapes. In their place were cleaner lines, softer edges, and just enough tail fin to remind you we hadn't quite given up on the Jetsons' dream yet. But inside that futuristic lineup, there was one trim that stood above the rest. One car that didn't just look futuristic, it looked fast. And that was the Ford Starliner. The Starliner wasn't a separate model on its own. It was technically just a trim of the Galaxy, but if you saw one, you knew immediately it was different. The secret weapon? A long, sweeping fastback roofline that gave the car an almost aerodynamic silhouette. Compared to the boxy 59 Galaxy, the Starliner looked like it was moving 100 miles per hour even when it was parked in your driveway. Out back, Ford threw in half-moon taillights and chrome details that looked more like spacecraft design than family cruiser. They even slapped 3 circular accents onto the rear pillars just to make sure nobody mistook this thing for your average Galaxy. And here's the funny part. Back in 1960, a lot of people thought the Starliner's look was a little too bold. People were still clinging to big chrome barges, and the Starliner looked like it came straight from a sci-fi movie poster. Some buyers loved it, others weren't ready, but fast forward 60 years, and those same bold choices are exactly why collectors drool over them today, especially the 1961 version, which refined everything. A smoother grille, rounder taillights, and a style that just screamed early 60s cool. Even the inside was futuristic, wide horizontal speedometer, toggle switches that felt like they belonged in an aircraft cockpit, and body-colored panels that made the whole car feel like a concept car someone accidentally put into production. It wasn't luxury in the Cadillac sense, it was cool in a jet age. Let's go to Mars sense. The Starliner wasn't just a car, it was Ford's statement piece, a rolling showcase of what the future of driving could look like. Now, here's where the Starliner wasn't just about looks. It had a secret edge that racers immediately noticed. That sloped fastback roofline wasn't just futuristic styling, it was aerodynamic. On the NASCAR ovals, the Starliner sliced through the air better than almost anything else Ford had ever built. Less drag meant higher top speeds, and suddenly this family cruiser was Ford's weapon of choice for stock car racing. Competitors weren't thrilled. Imagine showing up to the track with your standard boxy Chevy, only to see a Starliner glide by looking like it was designed in a wind tunnel. At speed, that roofline gave Ford as much as a 3-mile-per-hour advantage, and in NASCAR, 3 miles per hour might as well be a country mile. Drivers loved it, teams loved it. The Starliner gave Ford something it hadn't had in a while, an edge. NASCAR in the early 60s wasn't about slick sponsorships or pit strategy. It was about raw speed, and the Starliner delivered. But the Starliner wasn't done flexing, because under the hood, Ford was hiding something even more interesting. In 1960, Ford dropped in their brand new 352 cubic inch V8, part of the FE engine family, and they didn't just give you one version, they gave you 3 flavors. A 2-barrel carb version making 220 horsepower, a 4-barrel bumping it up to 300 horsepower, and the high-performance 4-barrel, the real star, cranking out 360 horsepower. That last one was a milestone, the first time a Ford engine made more horsepower than cubic inches. Big deal back then. Of course, technically, you could still order the smaller 292 V8, which made about 185 horsepower. But let's be honest, if you bought a Starliner and chose the 292, you probably also ordered it in beige and used it to drive to bingo night. Performance-wise, the base 4-barrel 352 wasn't exactly setting records. One magazine tested it and got a quarter-mile time of 20 seconds flat. That's not muscle car territory, but the high-performance 352 changed everything. Suddenly, you're talking 14.8 seconds in the quarter mile, over 5 seconds quicker. And Ford didn't just crank up the power, they gave the high-performance Starliners real mechanical upgrades: bigger brakes, beefier drive shaft, improved manifolds, and a steeper rear gear. The only catch? No automatics allowed. If you wanted the fast one, you were rowing your own gears. But here's the twist: the only manual you could get was a 3-speed column shift, not exactly muscle car king material. Or was it? By 1961, the horsepower wars were heating up. Chevy had its big blocks, Chrysler was flexing, and Ford knew it couldn't stick with a 3-speed column forever. So late in the 1961 model year, Ford quietly dropped a bombshell: the brand new 390 cubic inch V8, making 375 horsepower. And this time, it came with what Starliner fans had been begging for: a proper floor-mounted 4-speed manual. This combo officially transformed the Starliner from futuristic cruiser into a legit street brawler. No more a family car with fins. With the 390 and a 4-speed, the Starliner could finally stand toe-to-toe with the era's best muscle machines. But here's the kicker: these 4-speed 390 Starliners were rare, like unicorn rare. Production numbers are fuzzy, but historians estimate only a fraction of total Starliners ever left the factory with that setup, which means if you find one today, you're looking at one of the rarest Fords of the entire muscle car era. Just when you thought the Starliner couldn't get any wilder, Ford added one last surprise. But this wasn't something you checked off on the factory order sheet. Nope, it came in the trunk. Dealers offered a tri-power carburetor setup for the 390, 3 carbs feeding that big block like a hungry beast. Technically, it was for track use only, which was Ford's polite way of saying, "We'll sell it to you, but don't blame us when you get pulled over." Once bolted on, output jumped to a monstrous 401 horsepower. That turned the Starliner from a stylish cruiser into a legit missile on wheels. Imagine buying a brand new Ford, popping the trunk, and finding extra horsepower just waiting to be installed. It's like ordering a pizza and getting a second one hidden under the box. And with that slippery fastback roofline, the Starliner didn't just go fast, it looked born to dominate. No wonder it became Ford's go-to NASCAR platform at the time. But here's the heartbreaking part: just as the Starliner was finding its stride, Ford killed it. After 1961, the fastback roof was gone. For 1962, the Galaxy lineup shifted to a more squared-off roof design. It was practical, sure, but in racing terms, it was a disaster. The new shape created more drag, knocking as much as 3 miles per hour off Ford's top speed at the big tracks. In NASCAR, that's the difference between first place and waving goodbye from the pits. Ford even tried to cheat their way around it by bolting fiberglass fastback roofs onto convertibles, hoping to get that lost advantage back. But NASCAR wasn't having it. They shut that loophole down almost instantly. It wasn't until 1963 that Ford finally brought back a proper fastback roofline, and by then, the Starliner was already gone. A 2-year flash in the pan that still managed to leave a permanent mark. Over its short run, Ford built just under 1 million Starliners. But here's the catch: fewer than 10% had the high-performance engines, and an even smaller slice, we're talking needle in a haystack rare, came with the legendary 390 and 4-speed combo. That scarcity is exactly why the Starliner has become one of the most collectible and respected Fords ever built. Today, when one pops up at auction, it isn't just a sale, it's an event. Collectors circle them like hawks, knowing they're bidding on not just a car, but a piece of racing history frozen in time. And that's the irony: Ford created the perfect blend of style, speed, and space age cool, only to make it disappear almost overnight. The Starliner proved that aerodynamics mattered in racing. It proved Ford could build a car that was both futuristic and ferocious. And yet, it vanished after just 2 years. So the real question is this: if Ford could erase something this iconic so quickly, how many other perfect cars never even made it off the drawing board?